In 1941, Italian commandos perpetuated what was known as the Raid on Alexandria. Straddling torpedoes like underwater motorcycles, 6 Frogmen put British battleships as well as a nearby Norwegian tanker out of commission. The story of Italy's Frogmen is a peculiar tale of the special forces in World War II. On one hand, they were the best combat frogmen produced by any nation during the conflict, and on the other, the innovation they brought forth is stained by the evil ideology that split the unit apart upon the toppling of Mussolini. Italy's best unit left behind a legacy that's still unrivaled in terms of material destruction and caused a spur of innovation and naval special warfare that is still seen today. Watchmaker Giovanni Panerai opened the company's first workshop in Ponte al Grazi, just outside his hometown of Florence, Italy, in 1860. Not much is known about Giovanni, except for his relationships with prestigious watchmakers, such as Rolex, who provided movements for his timepieces and clocks. Giovanni's connections became vital in creating a name for the Panerai brand. In fact, the company was contracted to develop ship clocks for the Regia Marina, the Royal Italian Navy, throughout the 19th century. It wasn't until the eve of the Second World War that Panerai created the first worn timepiece prototype called the Radiomir. Designed specifically for the 1st Submarine Group Command, the Radiomir featured a large cushion-shaped steel case, wire lugs welded to the case, and a hand-wound mechanical movement, and a water-resistant strap long enough to be worn over a diving suit. While Italians may have been outmatched in every other aspect, their diving equipment gave them a huge advantage over their adversaries. Panerai would continue to perfect the Radiomir model over the next 2 years until it went into production in 1938. The company made a number of changes at the request of the Navy and began producing a new model that featured a sandwich dial. These watches were served mainly as navigational tools in the Second World War. A diver could use the watch to measure the time it would take him to swim to a target. Timing was a matter of life and death, and the Frogmen relied on these watches for precision. Italian officers would develop and refine a variety of special weapons, such as small motor crash boats packed with explosives in their bow. There were also midget submarines and 2-man motorboats armed with 1 or 2 torpedoes. The story of Panerai, the Frogmen, and the conflict in which they all engaged in can never be fully told. After the Italian surrender, Giovanni Panerai took risks in having to supply the Germans, with much of his inventory being confiscated, and Rolex would remove their logo from the movements as to not be associated with the Germans. Italian soldiers had to make the choice to support the former regime or the new government. From Italy to Greece, thousands would die in the disarmament and captivity by the Germans and the British. The German divers were in operation since 1942. Though they would have few small successes, major operations would be too grand and too late into the war. One of these captured German watches recently surfaced at an auction. The watch was brought home by Captain Alfred Packer of the 43rd Reconnaissance Regiment, after capturing a squad of German divers attempting to blow up the Nijmegen Bridge. For 44 years after the war, Panerai continued to make watches and other instruments exclusively for the military. The innovative contributions of the Italian divers sowed the seeds of future special underwater operation forces, but Panerai still remains a watch for professionals around the world. The Panerai family seized its ownership in 1997, but the brand still pays homage to its roots and is owned by the Richemont Watch Group. Many would consider the brand a far cry from what it once was. Today the brand has various sponsorships and upscale boutiques around the world. It's a long way from where the brand began. And it's a long way from those dark Mediterranean nights, where danger lurked below the water as much as above.